And hello out there, all you Stay Tuners. Welcome back to another episode of Stay Tuned Sports. This is episode number 25. How's everybody's week going so far? Mine's not going too bad. We're getting hit with that snowstorm right now up in northeast Pennsylvania. I'm pretty sure it's the whole northeast coast. But 2 hours to get home. Usually takes me about a half-hour drive. So yeah, it was quite interesting. But you can follow me over on Twitter. Might as well get this stuff out of the way at Jimbo ST Sports. Follow the show itself where the podcast kind of drops and we tweet and all that stuff. Follow the show at ST Sports Podcast, and follow King over on Twitter at King of Skunk Duck. Like I say every week, he has some good shirts over there. Just head over there and take a look at some of them. Maybe you might want to buy one or two of them. But a little bit of a slow week, I guess you could kind of say, in sports. We had college football last week. I was live tweeting with you guys during the Notre Dame game there. Some good interactions with you guys. I'll get to that game a little bit. You had the Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. I know I said last week that I was going to put up a poll for who won the trade as far as Dallas Cowboys with Amari Cooper, Golden Tate going to Philly, and Demaryius Thomas going to Houston. But when Golden Tate only plays a couple plays, it's kind of pointless. But like I said, I'll get into that game as well. I was a little disappointed with my team. There's one player I just wish they would finally just give him the ball, and pretty sure I bring it up every week. Jimmy Butler from the NBA, he got traded to the Sixers, so that was kind of big. I know we don't really talk too much about NBA on here, but that's a big trade, for Butler going to a young team. So I'll touch that a little bit. Plus, some hockey talk. I know a lot of sports shows and even this show sometimes we talk about some of the bad stories, like that are in the news, like with the Ohio State type thing with Urban Meyer, or NFL players being arrested for just being dumb. But we have actually a heartwarming story for the show too, so we'll be getting to that in a few minutes. Before I forget, you could also listen to us on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, and Spotify. If there's any other ones out there that you guys would rather listen to us on, shoot us a message over on Twitter, or go to our Facebook. Follow us there. We usually drop the show on there as well, in case I don't know. I guess you could listen to it on Facebook, when you're playing video games or whatever. That's usually when I do my podcast listening, when I'm playing hockey. But we're also gonna touch a little bit NFL scores. We'll do our picks this week, and look over the college football rankings. Nothing really changed too much. So why don't we start off with that, since, like I said, there's not too much that changed. The season's kind of winding down now. There's about 2 games left for most teams, maybe 3 if you're going for a conference championship. But this week, really the only interesting game that has any type of implications for playoffs is the Notre Dame game against Syracuse. And it's the Shamrock Series, played at Yankee Stadium, and me and King are still praying that they don't wear the Shamrock Series uniforms. They're basically the pants they look like baseball pinstripes, and the shirts, the jerseys, I think they kind of look like just a regular baseball jersey. The whole outfit is a Yankees themed baseball jersey, which it just looks terrible. I mean, I like the jerseys from last week. King's only complaint he had being as a graphic designer was he was hoping that they would have white numbers instead of the dark blue numbers that were on there. And as far as the announcers, they were getting on my nerves. We can't call who the player is because we can't see the number. Well, then shut up. But that game, I don't know. I mean, we won 42-13, but it didn't feel like a 42-13 game. Our defense, even though our defense reminded me of Jim Johnson's bend don't break defense. We'll let you drive down the field, but once we get into the red zone, we stop you. Me and King both agreed that's not gonna win championships against Alabama or Clemson with how they have been playing the past couple of years. But we're luckily getting Ian Book back this week. Wimbush did enough. There was a couple plays that he did play like Wimbush. He wanted to force the stuff, and that was my biggest fear going into this game. Our run game, man, we got a tough running game. And now that we put Ian Book back in there, who's more accurate than Wimbush, hopefully we don't get away from the running game and just maybe even do a 50-50, split between run and pass, and keep the other team's offenses off the field. That's one of the best friends for a defense is a running game. So, we got Syracuse this week. Syracuse is a tough team past couple of years. I think if we could get past Syracuse, whether it's 3 points or 30 points, I think we'll be okay against USC. But gotta get past Syracuse first. This game, I do think it's going to be a 3-point, maybe a 7-point type outcome. And hopefully, like I said, Notre Dame pulls it off, keep the magic alive. Alabama, it's a cupcake week for them. They got the Citadel. Clemson has my underdog team that I love rooting for, which is Duke. I've talked about a couple times on the show about why I do still follow Duke football a little bit, just because for all you people that used to play NCAA out there on Xbox or PlayStation, I always would take Duke because they were the worst team in the nation according to that game, and I would take them and build them up. And it was just they were so terrible that the only plays I could do was goal line run and just basically run the clock out, like I was talking about with the Notre Dame running game. So, I mean, Clemson should win that, but it would be hilarious if Duke pulls up the upset and defeats them this week. Then you got number 4, Michigan, who's been playing really hot lately. They got Indiana this week. Again, with how hot they've been playing, they should just run right through them. Probably have their starters pulled by halftime. You got UCF against Cincinnati. But they're number 11. The top 10 didn't move at all this week. So I think you're basically looking at whoever's in the top 10. If one of these top 4 teams falter at all, they're the only teams that will get into the top 4. Anybody outside the top 10, I don't think will make. There's not enough time. We'll make a big enough jump to get up there. So, but out of those top 10 teams, let's just say Notre Dame loses this week or next week and gets knocked out of the playoffs, and you still got Bama, Clemson, and Michigan in there. I wouldn't mind seeing Washington State get some fresh blood in there. You got Georgia at number 5. They always seem like they choke at the end of the year, or they choke in a big game when it comes to the playoffs. LSU, I don't know, just something about them just leave a bad taste in my mouth. You got West Virginia at number 9. Maybe them up there. they would be maybe my number 2 pick. And then you have Ohio State. No, they need to stay away. Especially with the whole Urban Meyer thing that happened earlier this year. Now there's a new one coming out that's saying he covered up a racial slur situation that happened with that same coach. So I think there's more to the story, or more to the school that they're leading on with what happened with Urban Meyer and this coach. And Urban Meyer's not a dummy. He should know that with the technology nowadays and stuff like that, text messages and Twitter, you can't hide anything. So if this did come out, or if this did happen, it will come out. And it's better to get out in front of it now. But he's still standing pat that, it never happened, this and that. So we'll see about that. But that's going to be the college talk for this week. But moving on to some NBA talk for some of you NBA fans out there. And plus, me being a Philadelphia sports guy, with the Sixers, I don't really follow them per se, like when it comes to watching them, but I keep an eye on them to see how they're doing. And I know the past couple seasons they've been coming along. And on I believe it was a Sunday during the Eagles game. Oh no, I'm sorry, it was during the Flyers game that I watched, and I came across that the Sixers traded for Jimmy Butler, formerly of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, for anyone that's been following this at all, this trade has been coming a long time. Butler, I think, wanted out there. He was rumored to be going to the Heat and then the Lakers. And I'll be honest, I was surprised that the Sixers were the ones that pulled this off. So the Sixers traded for Jimmy Butler, and they also got Justin Patton. The Sixers traded to the Timberwolves Robert Covington, Dario Saric, Jared Bayless, and a 2022 second-round draft pick. Now, I'm not too sure how the NBA draft goes, but everywhere that I've been reading, everybody said Elton Brand, the GM, by not giving up the first rounder was big. So, in 2022, I mean, that's 4 years away. I mean, I would think that's not that big of a pick to begin with, because who knows, we may not be here in 4 years. But so they had to wait till Monday for it to be official, which it finally did. He made his debut last night in a loss. I think they only lost by 4 points, but the few clips I've seen, the Sixers finally got three big scores. They got Jimmy Butler now. They got the Rookie of the Year from last year, Ben Simmons, and then Joel Embiid. He's big enough to be a center, so I'm assuming he plays center, but he comes to a lot of Eagles games, Flyers games, so hopefully this puts them over the top. I know I also saw that Elton Brand said that he's not done adding to his team yet. They have a roster spot open, and he's looking to add more championship caliber players, which is smart because you got a young core. Jimmy Butler is only 26, I think I saw. So, I mean, that's still young. I mean, you got LeBron James going on, 15, 20 years, so he's only 35 or so. So, if you could keep these kids together, it's been a while since you've seen a dynasty in any type of sports city. So, we'll see how that goes. Still at least half a year, maybe more, for these kids to gel together and see how they do and get to the playoffs and try to win it all. Someone that's not going to be playing at all this year is Mr. Le'Veon Bell. If if you guys have been living underneath the rock the past 6 months, 9 months, Le'Veon Bell was franchise tagged by the Pittsburgh Steelers back in March, I believe it was, whenever they're allowed to tag them. And his contract would have been a 1-year, $14.5 million contract. And he refused to sign it because he wants to basically get paid like a quarterback. Which, listen, $14.5 million is a lot of money. I know me and King back in the summer got into an argument over this. Do I think he deserves more? Maybe 15 or 16, but not quarterback money. Now, what was going on this whole season was he's holding out, and then about a week or two ago it came out that if he held out the whole season, come next year free agency, if the Steelers franchise tagged him, he would get bumped up to the lower tier quarterbacks because he was already capped out as a running back tiered franchise tagged, which if he got franchise tagged, he would be making $22 million, which is the lower tier of the franchise tag for a quarterback. So, and to show you how smart his agent is, they just found out about that part of it a week or two ago. You think he would have, because it's in the collective bargaining agreement. And he had till November 13th, which was 2 days ago, to sign it and show up to camp. Otherwise, he would lose a year. He would lose the whole year. He'd be ineligible to play. And sure enough, that's what he did. Now, the funny part, excuse me, the funny part about this whole thing that happened the past day or two was that when it became official that he wasn't going to play this year for the Steelers, all his so-called buddies, teammates, raided his locker. They took down his name, any shoes that he left there, any jerseys or whatever. They raided it. I'm not sure who the one player was, but he took like 3 pairs of cleats home and things like that. I know Big Ben was quoted as saying that he texted him, wished him the best. He was a great teammate. But I still say this whole situation is only going to hurt him. I don't think anybody is going to sign him to a 6-year deal come next free agency. I don't think anybody's going to sign him to a 1-year, $20 million deal next free agency. I think he's going to be looking at a 1-year, $14.5 million contract. Now, I saw during the week one sports writer, might have been Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter, say they could see a 1-year contract, $14.5 million, with incentives being low enough that would trigger into a 6-year contract type deal. Maybe that would be smart for the teams, for any teams out there, which I know the Philadelphia Eagles was one of the teams. I hope we don't sign them. Because, again, our coach don't like to run good running backs. But yeah, he's starting to get on my nerves about that. But the one thing I did see was, yes, the Steelers won't have the money to franchise tag him as far as the cap goes, but they could transition tag him, which, from the way I gathered, would start this process all over again. Bell's been franchised 2 or 3 seasons in a row now. That's why this time around he got tired of the franchise tag. If he gets transition tagged, it's a lower draft pick trades, or whatever you want to call it, compared to a franchise tag. and he would be back down to, the mid-tier or the top-tier running back. So if that were to happen, if they were to tag him, does he sit out another year? If that's the case, I don't think anybody would sign him. That's 2 years in a row he would pull this. Why would they do it? And the only reason why the Steelers didn't give in to him and give him the contract was, let's all admit it, they got lucky with Connor, their starting running back now. Played at Pittsburgh. I think he was a late round pick. Who would have thought he would have been putting up numbers just like Bell? Now, if he played half that, I think they would have gave Bell his contract, and he would have played for the Steelers the rest of his career probably. But he's going to be moving on at some point. Come next year, I think he's definitely on a new team. Just hopefully not the Philadelphia Eagles, because like I said, Doug Peterson even admitted that they needed to give Josh Adams some more runs. I've been banging this drum for about 5-6 weeks now. I've seen him at Notre Dame. Every time when he plays for Philly or gets in there to play, he runs off 5, 6, 7 yards a carry. And he's a big back, so he can wear down your defenses. And he gets in there for the Dallas Cowboys game, runs off a 15, 16-yard run, and that was the last time I saw him. You stuck with Corey Clement and Wendell Smallwood. Just because Corey Clement had a MVP-type game in the Super Bowl doesn't mean he's going to be the hot hand or do the same things again this year. There's just something missing with this team. I mean, Carson Wentz is playing well. The defense, our cornerbacks, have been garbage since probably Bobby Taylor, Troy Vincent times. We haven't had a good shutdown corner or good shutdown cornerbacks in a while. And on top of that, we take another injury hit. Ronald Darby's out for the year with a torn ACL, which, again, he wasn't playing that well in my opinion, even though some Philadelphia writers think he was. We get Jalen Mills back this week. We get Sidney Jones, I believe, back this week. But Jalen Mills is not a starting corner. He's a slot corner. Sidney Jones, I think, should be on the outside. And then let's trade a third-round pick for Golden Tate and play him. I think he played. I think he had 3 targets. 2 of them he broke open for 10, 12 yards, and then that was it. I understand, if he just got there maybe 4 or 5 days earlier. He had a week and a half of practices. You're trying to tell me that in a week and a half you could only game plan 10 plays for him? Come on. And so now that the Eagles lost 27-20, they're 4-5. And I'll tell you what, one more game, if they lose, it's over. They're not going to repeat. They're not going to make the playoffs. Right now they sit at the 11th best record in the NFC. They're 2 games, I believe, behind Washington. They're a game or a game and a half behind the 6th seed, which is either Minnesota or I think it was Seattle, may have been. So, yeah, I'm not too happy with my Eagles right now, but hey, at least Notre Dame's playing good. So, we record on Thursdays. And as far as NFL goes, we got the Green Bay Packers and Seattle Seahawks tonight at 8:20. Seattle is the favorite by 3, but everybody pretty much knows when it's ever 3, it's just an even spread. They only get that for home field. But, the Packers seem to have found a new running back in Jones. You got Aaron Rodgers there. Devontae Adams. I know one of their receivers is down, so they got a young kid playing at receiver. With Seattle, you got Russell Wilson. The Legion of Boom is all busted up, broken up, whatever we want to say it. So I'm gonna go with Green Bay with this one. I'm actually surprised it's only a 3-point spread. But I'm gonna go with Green Bay by 10. And maybe this will be a entertaining one, which most Thursday games aren't entertaining anymore. So as far as my lock pick, I'm gonna go with the Eagles-Saints game. And I never bet for or against my Eagles. So my lock is there's gonna be a crap load of points scored. One, you got Drew Brees and the Saints, who are very hot. The Eagles have no defensive backs, so Brees should carve them up. Carson Wentz, Alshon Jeffries, Zach Ertz, they've all been clicking with each other. Maybe Golden Tate finally has his breakout game with the Eagles. If Doug Peterson holds to his press conference this past week saying he's got to get Josh Adams more touches, that'll open up the passing game. Right now, the over-under is 56, which I'm going to go with the over, and I'm going to say the final score for whoever wins is going to be 30-28. So that'd be 58. So that's my lock there. And my upset pick of the week will be the Panthers-Lions game. Right now, Carolina is a 4.5-point favorite. I'm going to go with the Lions. Yes, like I said, they traded Golden Tate away, but they also have a young receiver that they were able to trade him away to give this kid, I think his name is Galday, to give him more chances to shine. You got Matthew Stafford there, who has an arm. I just think Carolina's record is 6-3. I don't think they're a 6-3 team. They just don't feel like it. They feel more like a 5-4 or 500 team. But I'm gonna go Lions 17, Panthers 14. So that's gonna be our NFL picks for this week. And to close out the show, like I talked about earlier in the episode, and kind of coming off of the whole Le'Veon Bell talk, I want to talk a little bit about a good story for once. And yes, I know it's the Philadelphia Flyers, and that's my team that I follow, and probably all you guys hate me for it. But I think I saw this, yesterday, November 14th. So this article I got from hockeyfeed.com. The headline says, Flyers sign 14-year-old cancer patient to contract. Now, you see this from time to time, but when I read the article and what the Flyers are doing for him and how the story came about, it was actually pretty cool. So the article says, on Wednesday, yesterday, the Flyers signed left wing Luke Rogers to a one-day contract, according to GM Ron Hextall. He actually practiced with the Flyers yesterday in advance of Hockey Fights Cancer Night. He will get to take part into the upcoming Flyers Hockey Fights Cancer Night on November 27th at Wells Fargo, when the team will face the Senators. The Flyers will get to host them in the locker room for a special pregame read-off of the evening starting lineups. So there's that. And he also got his own locker stall. As a 14-year-old kid, you love the Flyers, and you get to just kind of chill with them during practice or before the game. It's kind of cool. So how this all came about was Rogers, who skates at the same New Jersey rink, James Van Riemsdyk, which is one of our top free agent signings this past offseason, played out as a youth player, joined the Flyers forward on the ice following practice as well as in the locker room at his own player stall. He was given number 98, so he's got his own jersey. And it's just nice to see that these teams take a step back and bring these kids in that have maybe unfortunate circumstances and make them, I don't want to say be normal, at least for a day, but make them forget about their situation. And I'll tell you what, I bet you anyway this kid is happy as pig and shit to be around the Flyers, to watch the game, to be down in the locker room. To make it even cooler, I think it would be cool if the NHL would approve, like during warm-ups when the Flyers are down on their end, let this kid just skate up and score on the Senators goalie or something like that. Just to kind of, make it fun for this kid again. But I'll put that article up on our Twitter account, which you can follow us at ST Sports Podcast, and I may put that on the Facebook as well in case you guys don't have Twitter. But so that's going to be it for this week. Like I said, a little slow this week, but a couple stories. Before I go, you can follow us on Twitter. Like I said, the show, you can follow us at ST Sports Podcast. You can follow me at Jimbo ST Sports. You can follow King at King of Skunk Duck. Go over there, check his shirts out. If you need some graphic designs done, shoot him a message. And you can also listen to us on iTunes, TuneIn, Spotify, Google Play. You can head over to the Podbean app. You could download us there. We've got a couple followers on there. So that's going to be it for this week. See you guys next week. Hope you guys have a good weekend. This is your good friend Jimbo, signing out.